Hello, BookTube. I got an outrageous email from one of you last night. I'm not going to name any names. The guilty party certainly is not watching for reasons that I will elaborate. But they sent me an email saying, you've said that you love opening mail live on camera, and that the reason you don't anymore is because sometimes the publicity sheets attached to the books send you into spasms of rage that go on for 40 minutes and need to be deleted. But you've also said that self-control is an incredible virtue that is no longer observed or exercised in the 21st century. How do those two things go together? Couldn't you read pub sheets and exercise self-control to bring back mail hauls? I'm sure I don't need to tell the rest of you that that is unacceptable behavior for the ranks of the Donoghue-gonauts. This is a one-way parasocial relationship. And the reason I know the guilty person is not watching is because I banished them not only from this channel, but from the internet. 14,000 subscribers, you have that kind of power. Nevertheless, begrudgingly, I thought about it, and I'm going to give that approach a try. So we're going to go through some mail, and I'm going to try exercising my much-touted self-control. It's just a little bit harder to do when it's live and unpremeditated, but we're going to give it a try. We're going to give it a try and see if it works. So that Weisenheimer will get their day, even though they'll never know about it. So, what is this first one? I'm just going to be very controlled here. This is a finished copy. This comes out in late March. Okay, this is by Mary Trevelyan and Erica Wagner, and it is called Mary and Mr. Elliott, a sort of love story. Is this going to be about T.S. Eliot? And once again, I mean, I don't want to jinx things, but once again, American book covers have suddenly changed. In 2023, I have hardly seen a bad American cover. This is not expensive to do. This is very cheap to do, but it's not cheap in a dumb way. Could it be that people are listening to me? People are realizing that covers are important? Anyway, for whatever reason, I am very happy to see it. So what have we got here? This is a twin portrait of T.S. Eliot and its author, the formidable Mary Trevelyan. Oh, okay. In 1938, T.S. Eliot, already a classic in his lifetime, struck up a friendship with Mary Trevelyan. This passionately curious woman, an intrepid traveler who, like Eliot, was deeply involved in the affairs of the Church of England, served as the warden of the Students' Movement House and mere yards from the poet and editor's office at Faber and Faber. Their relationship was domestic rather than artistic, characterized by church-going, conversation, record-playing, day trips to the English countryside with Mary at the wheel of the car Tom bought her, and Eliot cooking up sausages in his shirt sleeves. I am totally sold. Already, I am totally sold. Now I just want to know the genesis of the thing. So did Erica Wagner help her out? I mean, she must be 150. Let's keep going and find out. Over the years, their friendship deepened, and she came to believe it might grow into something more. Twice she proposed marriage, but Eliot always led her to understand that any such commitment would be impossible for him. Then the revelation of his long attachment to Emily Hale, who we saw her in a couple of Eliot-related books. One of them had Muse in the title? I have it still, because I love Eliot now. I've been studying him. I like reading him. He's one of those poets I like reading about more than I like reading his actual work. But what was the name of that thing? Hannah would know. It was a book about the women in Eliot's life. I think Muse was in the title. I think it just got reviewed in the TLS or something like that. Well, anyway, let's continue. I'm obviously rusty. Let's continue. And the sudden shock of his marriage to his secretary, Valerie Fletcher, caused a rupture between Trevelyan and the poet that could not be overcome. Mary Trevelyan left the unique chronicle, including diaries, letters, and pictures, that charts their 20-year relationship. Now, Erica Wagner has given it shape and context, bringing this untold story to light for the first time. Mary and Mr. Elliott is a tale of joy, misunderstanding, and betrayal that feels utterly modern and deeply human. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, and look at that. There is you're going to be able to make it. There she is. And there's the wonderful person who's bringing this story alive. Fantastic. Okay, so Mary Trevelyan died in 1966. I think I probably knew that because she crops up in Elliott books. A noted humanitarian and commentator on British society and culture. And Erica Wagner is the author of a novel, Seizure, Ariel's Gift, Ted Hughes, Sylvia Plath, and the Story of Birthday Letters. Oh, I knew her name. I knew I did. She also wrote a book called Chief Engineer, Washington Roebling, the man who built the Brooklyn Bridge, which was great. I came so close to reviewing that book. At the end, my editor and I at the Monitor decided that it wouldn't appeal to enough Monitor readers, so we just didn't do it. I was gung-ho for it, and she was a darling woman who was perfectly happy to let me review what I was gung-ho to write about. And then we were thinking about it, we were talking about it. Usually when she wanted to go somewhere else, I would just sit on the corner of her desk and I guess we'll talk. And eventually in fact, she was the one who said the line, well, 99% of Monitor readers have never seen the Brooklyn Bridge. So, and that did it. That line really did it for me. There are things that can cut through my boyish enthusiasm, and that did it. But it was a great book. Okay, well, one of the people who's blurbing this book is Lyndall Gordon, who wrote The Hyacinth Girl, T.S. Eliot's Hidden Muse. Maybe that's the book I'm thinking of. I think we got that just last year. But anyway, okay, well, we're off to a roaring start. This comes out in just a couple of weeks. I'm going to read this tonight. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, let's move on. We're doing fine. Let's move on. Let's see what this next one is. Let's see. It's another big hardcover. What do we got here? Ooh. All right. Good. Let's see what we can get rid of here. Let's get rid of Your Mother's Recipe for Bouillabaisse. I don't need that. All right. This comes out in April. This is a Steve book, but I know a lot of you who are also going to want this. I'm thinking that when I open a package like this, even before I show the book on camera, suddenly the ears of people like Vin at Revenant Reads or James Holder are all perking up. They don't even know yet what it is. It's like a dog whistle. This is a big new book from Basic Books about Assyria. The rise and fall of the world's first empire. I think I've mentioned it on this channel before, but here is the physical book. Assyria, the world's first empire, was a powerful force for centuries until its sudden and dramatic collapse in 609 BCE, before the Common Era is what that means. What does it all have in common? What does it mean? What Common Era? Is there an event or maybe a person? Maybe a cultural phenomenon? Maybe, who knows, a religion that determines when it's BCE? And if it is, shouldn't we just call it BC? Well, I don't want to offend anybody except me. But, again, those of you who are listening, who care about this sort of thing, 609 BC. First empire? There's no empire in China before then? No empire in Egypt before then? Very interesting. I'll be reading the book. Now, I have an e-file of this, but it got to me right in the middle of my Kindle apocalypse. I haven't looked at it. A distorted version of Assyrian history informed by the Bible and classical sources lingered for centuries. Yes, forever and ever. The only mention you ever found of Assyria was in the Bible. Assyria is mentioned often in the Bible. Until excavations in northern Iraq in the mid-19th century recovered Assyria's long-fallen cities and brought back to life the voices of the ancient Assyrians themselves. And true story here, a lot of those mid-19th century digs in what is now northern Iraq were done by our very own Sean D. Stanfest. Lucky to have him on BookTube. It doesn't show his age. Archaeological research, along with the study of tens of thousands of cuneiform texts, has enabled researchers to reconstruct central features of the empire, revealing Assyria's enduring impact on world civilization. And in this book, the author shows why Assyrian history deserves a more prominent place in our historical consciousness. I fall for it. So who is the author? Eckhart Frame is a professor. The author photo here is absolutely precious, but I don't know. I think it might be too small to catch on camera. We'll give it a try. is a professor of Assyriology in the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations at Yale, as you would expect. You'd expect that he's attached somehow to an Assyriology department. One of the world's foremost experts on the Assyrian Empire, he is the author or co-author of 6 books on ancient Mesopotamian history and culture. He has he has the Inspector Maigret glasses and the kind of semi-sardonic look that makes you just infinitely trust him. You know that he knows his subject. Can you make it out? There he is. That is somebody who would not put a word on paper that he couldn't back up. So that is great. That is great to know. All right. 2 for 2. We've got 2 more packages to do. So far, I haven't needed a particle of self-control. Let's hope that it stays that way. That would be great. What is this next one? Oh my, please goodness. Oh goodness gracious. Is this like a blessed mail haul? Is that what's going on here? Just because one of you had the nerve to call me on a blatant hypocrisies? Did the rest of you get any ideas? I am never a hypocrite. If you think I am, you're the hypocrite. That's a little hint of the modern American Republican Party for you, in case you're wondering. This comes out in early April. It is a Steve book. It is far more of a Steve book than the first 2. In fact, it's dead on. It's dead on. It is in Steve bullseye. This is by Sally Bedell Smith, who I've reviewed multiple times, and this is her new book, George VI and Elizabeth. There they are, we 4, right? The marriage that saved the monarchy. We 4 is what the mother, the father, and the 2 girls called each other. This comes out in early April. This is part of a flood of House of Windsor books that are being released in 2023. In part because this is a year that we're living without the Queen. And there's a new king. There's a new King Charles on the throne. I had terrible luck with the first one and even worse luck with the second one. But Sally Bedell Smith has a good track record with me. She's really good at what she does. Let's see what we have to say here. This subject, George VI and Elizabeth, have been the subject of 1 million books. Just 1 million. I have about 6 of them. Granted special access by Queen Elizabeth II to her parents' letters and diaries and to the papers of their close friends and family, the author brings the love story of this iconic royal couple to vibrant life. This deeply researched and revealing book shows how a loving and devoted marriage helped the king and queen meet the challenges of World War II, lead a nation, solidify the public's faith in the monarchy, and raise their daughters, Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret. And it was that love very publicly portrayed in the cameras that gave rise to one of the great, unfortunately probably apocryphal sayings to come out of the entire length of the House of Windsor, where the Queen Elizabeth said that the children would never leave London without their mother, and their mother would never leave London without the king, and the king will never leave London. When the whole idea was being floated to break up the family and get them into the countryside for safety, as they did with Queen Mary. When King Edward VII, or the VIII, abdicated the throne in 1936, shattering the crown's reputation, his younger brother, known as Bertie, assumed the family's name, his father's name, and became King George VI. Shy, sensitive, and afflicted with a stutter, George VI had never imagined that he would become king. His wife, Elizabeth, a pretty, confident, and outgoing woman who became known later on as the Queen Mum, strengthened and advised her husband. Yes, she did. But I'm not the only one. There were plenty of people saying that in this generation, as in the generation before it, she was first in love with his brother. Just as in the previous generation, the queen who was shipped in for the process of breeding children was not only in love with the heir, but was affianced to marry him and was handed off like secondhand baggage to his son when the heir died. But we can presume that in that case, as in this case, genuine love developed. With his wife's support, guidance, and love, George VI was able to overcome his insecurities and become an exceptional leader, navigating the country through World War II, establishing a relationship with Winston Churchill, visiting Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt in Washington and in Hyde Park, and inspiring the British people with his courage and compassion during the Blitz. Here in this pub sheet, given to us without a capital B, which is wrong. That is incorrect. It's one specific historical event. Simultaneously, George VI and Elizabeth raised their daughter Princess Elizabeth, who spent her childhood watching and learning from her parents to become the future queen. She fell in love with Prince Philip at 13. Did she indeed? Again, you have the official and mostly semi-official palace accounts of things, and Sally Bedell Smith very likes the living. She very much likes the living that she has. She's not going to go against that, but there is a counter-narrative that does exist, and it is at least as well sourced, as well informed as the major narrative, the accepted narrative. It's just if you're not pushing the accepted narrative, then Random House isn't going to publish your book with, you know, a 500,000 print run in the spring. They're not going to do that. Sally Bedell Smith gives us an inside view of the lives, struggles, hopes, and triumphs of King George VI and Elizabeth during a dramatic time in history. Fantastic. Just fantastic. I love her book, Elizabeth the Queen. I am blurbed on the paperback of her biography of Prince Charles, then Prince Charles. And I am going to fight to review this. I would very much like to review this for as big an audience as possible. I love writing about the Windsors. I spent a whole year doing it. I wrote enough about the Windsors to make the kernel of a book. A year with the Windsors, and I did a lot of follow-ups after that. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. That is so great. Okay, that is so great. So this comes out in April. And we are, it's all downhill from there. I mean, this is the tagline that my old IRL friends always use, and a couple of new IRL friends for my reading, for Steve Bullseyes, is dead kings, dead Kennedys, and dogs. Here we have a dead king. So I don't know that this next one, the last one here, is going to be able to beat a new book of Windsor history by probably their foremost biographer at the moment. I really doubt that this will be able to do that. But let's see here. Certainly, as an invitation goes to resume mail hauls, it doesn't get any better than this one. There's the baby bean. A lot of you have written and said, you know, it's your choice, and I completely understand. The world has gone insane. You don't want to be canceled or anything like that. But we do miss seeing Frida in mail hauls. And, well, there she is. So this next one is from Europa Editions. Great big thing. It's 3 times the size of what they usually do. This is by David Keenan, and it is called Monument Maker. It's a novel called Monument Maker. Big, huge thing. When does this come out? Are we too late from March of the Mammoths? No, we're not. This comes out on March the 21st. So this is yet another mammoth that I will do for March of the Mammoths. In fact, do either one of these count? No, this one is not going to be. Well, once upon a time, since you're a pub sheet, you would tell me things that I need to know, but I guess you're not going to do that. So let's go to the back page like a common bridge troll. No, this is 674 pages, and so is the Assyria book, so neither one of these count, but this thing does. So I'm adding another mammoth to my March reading. I'm not going to let this thing go. So what have we got here? This is 784 pages, and it's a paperback. It's going to be a paperback original. Bless the people at Europa. This is going to be a paperback original for $24. For an 800-page novel, that's close to being fair. And this has blurbs all over it. At the front of the contact sheet is blurbs, blurbs, blurbs. Irish Times, the Times Literary Supplement, New Statesman, Literary Review. So this has been out in the UK already. Those of you who are in the UK, have you heard about this? Read it, maybe? What is this? David Keenan is one of today's most exciting, fearless, and entertaining writers. I have never heard his name before. Monument Maker is his most daring book to date. Does he have any other books that have come out in America? Am I just forgetting this guy? Oh God. It's a novel, so I could easily be forgetting him. And somewhere out there in the wild, Hannah and Sam are both going, oh, he's so hopeless. He can rattle off 80 million anecdotes about Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, but he doesn't remember whether or not he's read this guy's fiction just because it's made up. Anyway, let's see what we have here. Is it possible for books to dream? Okay, whoever wrote this pub sheet earned their money with that line alone. For books to dream within books. Is there a literary subterranea that would facilitate ingress and exit points through these dreams? These are some of the questions posed by David Keenan's Monument Maker, an epic romance set in an eternal summer and a descent into history and the errors of the past. A novel with a sweep and range that runs from the siege of Khartoum to the conquest of Africa in the 19th century through the Second World War up to the present day, where the memories of one summer and an unforgettable love affair unravel. A book within a book within a book, a meditation on art and religion and on what it means to make monuments. A hallucinatory epic and a forward-looking history of the world, Monument Maker was written over the course of 10 years and represents the apex of Keenan's project to create books that are themselves teeming with organic life. Okay, well, Pub Sheet Writer got a little bit high on the dentist helium there, but I should point out this book is teeming with organic life. I hate to bring that up to your attention. I know you, like me, prefer to forget about it, but your books are colonies. There's a ton of life inside them. The only reason that you would ever know about that life is if the wrong kind starts to feed on the right kind and gets big enough for you to notice. Otherwise, you won't notice. Baby, where are you going? Are you crawling right down into your... What you doing up there, baby? Okay, and this has a Venetian sigil there on the cover. A lion inside a stone sigil. Okay, and then more blurbs from other people from the UK. So who is David Keenan? Let's do our walk of shame and find out who he is. This is Memorial Device. Won the Collier Bristow Award for debut fiction. Oh, you made that up. There's no such award. And was shortlisted for the 2017 Gordon Byrne Prize. You made that up too. His second novel, For the Good Times, won the 2019 Gordon Byrne Prize. So you're sticking with the Gordon Byrne story. You made it up. Edna O'Brien described reading his third novel, Extabeth, as feeling like being cut open to the accompanying sound of ecstatic music. And Monument Maker is his fourth novel. And he lives in Glasgow. That might explain the lunatic vibes that are coming off this thing. That biography says that Extabeth was published by Europa in 2022. It doesn't make any mention of the other two. So I don't think they were ever published in America. And I don't remember this coming out from Europa. 2022 was just 4 years ago. I think we need to read the opening of this book. Do we not? Since we don't know what it is. We have no idea what it is. Well, okay. I turned right away to the author's dedication. It is dedicated to the glory of God. Okay. First page is one block paragraph. I met her at a bookstall in a romantic European village on the outskirts of which I had set up a camp in a single bleak storage container painted blue on the edge of a disused quarry next to a ghastly man-made lake whose opaque gray waters in which I dipped the stone effigies that at that time in my life I was caught up in creating seemed like a skin on a sky. These ritual creations in which I would carve abstract shapes and symbols using blunt compasses which I would purchase at a nearby market that specialized in silverware and archaic utensils and religious icons. It was a very Catholic village. These strange signs that would speak and make themselves known to me, bird souls I called them, and that I would then incise into these special stones with the aid of these blunt compasses, these incantations, it appears to me now, these obsessive incantatory actions, which is what masonry is, which is what true stonework is at heart, according to Pierre, according to the obscure book that he self-published and that came to be the only text that mattered to me at this point in my life, and which had the quality of speech which is best heard by the heart, by the wounded heart, best of all, as if it had been published expressly for myself and had lain in wait for me up until I was ready for it, up until my heart lay in pieces, in the past, shattered along with my belief in love as more than just a word for a season, a term, and not as something that preserves the lovers forever, something that raises them up beyond all other achievement, which is when I cracked its code, I believe, as I worked on its first and still unpublished English translation. And what that meant, I think, is that I was, in a sense, possessed by the spirit of Pierre, by his marvelous artistic seriousness, by what he said about those stones, his history and these stones, his tracking of certain relationship with stones. It opened a whole new world to me, one that came to full fruition when I was introduced to my own Eurydice, my own manifestation of the fixed form of the female. Forgive me. I know that it's not an acceptable idea these days, though would that I could fix it further in stone after my hero, then mark these bastard words. I would, my hero, whose watery vault I return to now, in whose paint-gray waters, beneath which the entire world stands, upside down and undifferentiated, I dip my dolls. I almost said my carvings. I mean my ritual offerings, and line them up before me as stones with names, as something fixed that is spoken forever, like an army of emissaries, to elsewhere a determined crusade, to where there is no way ever I can ever accompany them. That's the first sentence of the book. That whole thing was one sentence. And the second sentence is also the second paragraph, and it's one line. I must remember you, flower, with a capital F. So this is going to be, as an earlier generation put it, a trip. This is going to be a trip of a novel. And it comes out on March the 21st as well. So you have just seen my TBR. A lot of these things, 3 of these 4 are books that have March releases, and one of them is one that's going to be on my TBR. I don't care if it was next May. I'm still going to read it right away. Okay, well, this is a couple of days of reading that I'm certainly going to do it. So everything else gets pushed off. So we have a big, weird novel, Monument Maker, by David Keenan. Would love to hear from any of you in Scotland about this author. Do you know this author? Have you been following him? Does he have fans out there? Then we have the new book by Sally Bedell Smith, a big work about George VI and Queen Elizabeth. I have many books on this pair. It is a great story. Sally Bedell Smith is a great storyteller. Then we have a new book on Assyria. Let's go to the original archaeological sources, piece them together, and free this entire empire and civilization from the Bible. What was this world that you can go to, the Museum of Fine Arts in New York or the MFA in Boston and see some gorgeous artwork from this time period. In fact, this frieze on the cover, is that in Iraq or is that from New York? It's just, you're not going to tell me where it comes from. And do you have an artwork section in here? You do, but it's all archaeological digs. I want to know where that particular thing comes from. No, you're not going to tell me. All right, well, that's okay. So we have those, and then we have a fascinating work of literary excavation. Mary and Mr. Elliott. How amazing. This woman kept diaries and saved letters and photos about her relationship with T.S. Eliot. Now someone comes along, a talented writer, comes along to make it a book. How incredible. I'm beginning to think that the amount of books that can be quarried out of T.S. Eliot's life and art may be infinite. That is fine by me. So anyway, that was the mail. I was goaded into it, but I'm glad I was. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.